Hello, 8th graders, and welcome to my PowerPoint for clauses, phrases, and sentences. I've been trying lots of different things, doing PowerPoints and doing a combination of me on the screen and a PowerPoint. But because I've noticed that a lot of you guys are struggling with clauses, phrases, and sentences, we're not moving forward right at the moment, and we're just going to take some time to focus on just reviewing and making sure we understand how to use clauses, both independent and dependent, and then also our phrases. So I've made a PowerPoint. This will also be uploaded to Sycamore, so if you just want to pull it up and review with just the PowerPoint, you would be able to do that as well. So I want to spend some time reviewing. This week is fall break week, so we won't be doing a lot of additional homework. I'm not assigning a test yet because I want you to get a little more comfortable with all of this. So let's begin. So we need to make sure that we're understanding certain terms, and phrase and clause is something we're going to be using all year long. And a phrase, as I'm sure you know, is a group of words that is not a complete thought. It might be something like, if you think about little toddlers, they very rarely put words all together in a sentence. Often it is just a little few words that they put together to try to communicate something, like want food or bug sidewalk. They want to tell you there's a bug on the sidewalk, and so they just use a few words. Think in terms of toddlers when you're thinking of phrases. An independent clause is a group of words with a subject and verb, and it can stand alone. And remember, I've told you that independent clauses are like your parents. They can be totally on their own. They have their own house, all that. I'm not going to go over all of that again because I think I've drilled that into you. A dependent clause, though, is a group of words with a subject and a verb, and it cannot stand alone. And often we have a couple of independent clauses, maybe a phrase or a dependent clause kind of sneaking in there, and we've got to learn how to differentiate them. So the first thing that's really important, and our students in the elementary grades often take, or in 3rd, 4th, 5th, take Shirley Grammar, and they learn how to ask certain questions in order to find the main subject and verb. So if you can learn how to ask the right questions as you play grammar detective, it will help you tremendously. So we're going to ask a question here. We want to find the right subject and the right verb. So we're going to ask the question first, who milked the cows? And hopefully, or the sentence is, the boy in the barn milked the cows. So we want to ask who milked the cows. And if you're paying attention at all, you would tell me that it is the boy that milked the cows. Now, to find the right verb, we want to ask, what did the boy do? And if you're paying attention again, you would be able to tell me that he's milking the cows. So, if you were in 3rd grade right now, you would be learning to find the subject, which is boy, and the verb, which is milked. This sentence has one subject and one verb, and it is an independent clause. It can stand alone. But rarely are our sentences this simple, and that is nice. This is a simple sentence, and it is nice that it was pretty easy to work through. Let's try another one, because we're still asking those questions, and I want you to get into that habit as you look through your grammar homework and you're trying to figure out whether you've got clauses or phrases. So the first thing, the sentence is, his parents, who were in the house, called loudly for him to come home. And so first I would ask who called loudly, and you would tell me his parents, and so we would put the subject noun right there. Then I would ask, what did the parents do? And you would tell me that they called. So we have subject, noun, and verb. But this sentence is a little bit longer. We have the who were in the house, and we have for him to come home. And so we have to consider what those things are. And so if we go to our next slide here, we know we have to deal with this who, which clause, because who and which are clue words in our grammar detecting that we have to look for. So we have this who, and who and which clauses are going to give us another clause in the sentence. The who is going to be the subject, were is going to be the verb. Because in the house is a prepositional phrase, and we have to get rid of that. So when we look at diagramming in the coming weeks, we'll be practicing this, but I just wanted you to see that there's two independent clauses. His parents called loudly for him to come home is the independent. Who were in the house is the dependent clause. So what about phrases? They like to sneak in and kind of mess us up. Most of our phrases will be prepositional phrases. We'll learn about some other designations later in the year, but right now we have prepositional phrases. That's mostly what's showing up. Make sure that you have access to a preposition chart so that you can refer to it when diagramming sentences. But here's some examples. Under the clouds, around the couch, over the fence, in the box, between the cracks, during the storm. They don't have a subject and a verb. They may have a noun, storm. They should have a noun, couch, fence, but they don't have an action word. Now here is a list of prepositions. You could print this slide out and keep it in your notebook. If you've already made a copy of the one in our 8th grade grammar book, that's fine. But this is also a copy that you can use. If you have this handy when you're working on your sentences, you will then get into the habit of crossing out the prepositional phrases, realizing, remember, no good. Nothing good comes from a prepositional phrase, at least not the good stuff like subjects and verbs. So consider printing this whole chart out and putting it in your notebook. Now, when we have our sentences, we are going to always assume at this point that there will be 2 or 3 clauses, or perhaps 2 clauses in a phrase thrown in, and you have got to learn how to recognize them. And I know some of you have been having difficulty with this, so we want to practice on this. Separating the clauses first, or the clauses and phrases, will help tremendously. So find the phrases first, and what I like to do is actually cross them out. Notice that I've crossed out in the library and on the couch. They're prepositional phrases, and they're not going to provide any of the subject-verb information that I need. I'm going to keep looking at this, and I want to find my main idea, and then I know I have a who, which clause. So my main idea is that Mom could be found. She could be found in the library on the couch. But the main idea is Mom could be found. So first we crossed out the prepositional phrases. Next we find the main idea, and that is the main independent clause that will be on the top line when you diagram. And then next we have to deal with that who, which, because we know that who, which clauses are dependent and they sneak in quite a bit. This is the dependent who enjoyed a good book. Now, Mom could be is our subject and verb of the main clause, just like before. Who enjoyed is subject, verb. Then we can answer the question, Mom enjoyed what? Book, and that's a direct object. Now let's move on. I want to do a second sentence, and you're going to try. So I want you to pause, and I want you to take a look at this sentence. It's very similar to the previous one, but I want you to take out all the prepositional phrases first, then tell me the main idea, and then deal with the who, which clause. So if you are back, then I assume you dealt with our clause. You should have crossed out in the dark as a prepositional phrase. Then you should have told me that Dad could be found. That's your subject verb. And you could have included snoring and sleeping in that. And then finally, you should have dealt with the who. Who liked is subject verb. Recliner, who liked what? That's your direct object. Now to diagram, the main idea, that main clause is always going to go on the main line. You could have 2 of those or 3 of those. If you remember, you have the conjunction. And we'll be practicing more with that. Your dependent clauses are going to go on a line below. And prepositional phrases are going to be diagrammed below as well. And they're diagrammed on it slants down and then goes across. So we'll be looking at those in future weeks. So let's take a look at some diagramming of Mom, who could be found I can't even remember the sentence now. Mom, who could be found in the library, or who enjoyed a good book, could be found in the library on the couch. There we go. The main idea, Mom could be found. All 3 of those words are going to be part of your verb. The who enjoyed book, because this is dependent, it can't be up here. It has to come down here. So we have who enjoyed what, who enjoyed book. Now, like I said, those prepositional phrases I'm not so concerned with right now for those of you who are new. I mainly want you understanding the skeletons and really grabbing onto those. So we've got our 2 skeletons here. Mom could be found, and then who enjoyed good book. And just a reminder, as you are being a detective, the clue words that you are looking for, who, whom, whose, which, and that, and all those prepositions, those are clues that are going to help you to solve the sentence mysteries that we've been having. So when we are in on Wednesday, we will practice with some diagramming, but I just wanted to go over this just so that you're more comfortable with this. And I have put a worksheet on Sycamore. It will be on the HAS, and you will be practicing with that. So you'll be practicing with some of this diagramming. So it's sort of part of this video, but it will also be on the HAS, so look for it on Sycamore under Documents. And I will see you Wednesday.